Hello and welcome back to Demian Allen's Astrology and Tarot channel. And if you like the channel and the context, please click the subscribe button and like the video as well. Always does help. Okay, two things I'm going to concentrate on in this particular video. The first will be the Mercury retrograde that we've got coming up and details about that. And the second is the full moon on January the 28th that we've also all of us have got coming up. So let's just talk about the Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is banded around a lot and talked about, and now it's sort of come into the sort of collective consciousness. And of course, all the planets, apart from the sun and moon, because they're not planets, do go backwards in the sky. And it is an optical illusion. If you look from Earth, it looks as though the planets are actually moving backwards. They're not, but it looks as though. We, us astrologers, call it a retrograde motion. Instead of it appearing to move forwards in the sky, it moves backwards. And about three to four times a year, Mercury will go backwards, appear to go backwards if you look at it from Earth. Now, Mercury, the messenger of the gods, assigned to Hermes, rules all forms of communication. That means that your PC, your laptop, your Mac, your mobile phone, your landline, who delivers your post, it will rule, and letters that you write or receive. Short distance travel, which usually really is to do with travel in your country, on trains, particularly your car as well. It'll rule brothers and sisters, also neighbors as well, and generally how we communicate with other people. And of course, today, we use communication all the time. I'm using it right now. Our mobile phones now are just always with us. The internet, the radio, all of these things that we help us to communicate. In fact, you could say we're kind of oversaturated by Mercury's planetary energy these days. So when Mercury does go retrograde, it tends to, cause a few kind of issues. And it depends what planet, it depends what sign it actually goes retrograde in. So for this up and coming one, it's going to be in Aquarius. And actually Mercury in Aquarius is quite a nice combination. They work quite well together. That Aquarius is an air sign, and therefore air signs with Libra and with Geminis tend to love all ideas and communicating with various amounts of people. So Mercury feels that it can actually circulate and do something in Aquarius, although Aquarius is a fixed sign. But one of the major kind of aspects of this is that it's within Aquarius, sometimes what you can find is there's a lot of revolutionary tendency in how people express themselves, particularly through technology. So that would mean within maybe social media, starting revolutions or causing a kind of a flurry of activity that to a lot of people respond to in a way that is pushing boundaries when these two get together. But the interesting thing is that we haven't started the Mercury retrograde. It happens on the 30th of January, so just after the full moon, which I'll just talk about. But it's in its shadow period, and the shadow period is leading up to the actual retrograde, when it actually starts to go backwards. But it also means it's to do with the degrees. So there's 30 degrees in each sign of zodiac, and it's going to move backwards to a degree that it started or been at already. So the degree that's really kind of important in terms of this Mercury retrograde is 11 degrees in Aquarius. Now, that's important because that's the degree that it's going to start to move forward again. So what happens here is that on the last week, on the 14th of January, it went to 11 degrees. So what it's doing now is it's going to get to 26 degrees of Aquarius, and then it's going to go backwards. So it's going to go backwards on the 30th, Saturday the 30th, at 26 degrees, and it's going to go retrograde all the way back to 11 degrees in Aquarius. And so the shadow period really occurred last Thursday the 14th, and Friday the 15th, because that's when it was at 11 degrees. So it's kind of building up. And then what happens on the 21st of February, it reaches that 11 degrees again and then goes direct. And then after that, you're wanting to get it past the 26 degrees that it went retrograde as well. And that is on the sort of 13th of March. So this is the kind of the period when you would find the Mercury retrograde, from the shadow at the beginning to the shadow at the end, because it's got to cover all the degrees. And this is when what happens is that you tend to find that Mercury, things that happen in a Mercury retrograde in the second shadow period tend to come back in or try to be resolved. So interesting here. So when I look at this is the chart of the full moon on the 28th of January 2021, and you can see here that Mercury is slowed right down and it's at 26 degrees in Aquarius. So it's not applying aspects to any of our planets, but now it's going to go retrograde. It's going to move back towards particularly Jupiter here, and it's as I said, it's going to get to 11 degrees before it goes retrograde. And you've also got Mars moving forward in Taurus during this time as well. So Mercury and Mars kind of clashing in the sky slightly by Mercury's backward motion is going to cause a little bit of, as I say, that revolutionary tendencies in terms of how people express themselves through technology, an awful lot. And the interesting thing about this full moon is you've got a bit of a T-square going on between the moon opposing, of course, the sun, which happens every full moon, opposing the moon opposing Jupiter, and squaring Mars, and Mars is squaring the moon. And this is on January 28th. And then you've got Mercury about to go backwards as well. So it's this moment of this full moon is really can be really kind of tricky energy for a lot of people, and it depends where that full moon actually falls in your chart, depending on your sun sign or your rising sign. And if you know your rising sign, then brilliant. If you just know your sun sign, then that's good as well. So in regard to Aries or Aries individual, this is going to fall. The actual moon is between the axis really of the 11th and the 5th house. Those two houses are about individuality in the collective, but also friendships. So for a lot of Arians around the full moon, the aspect of friendships comes under the microscope. Maybe you might feel that you want to express yourself in a better way with your friendships, and find that they're not listening to you. So Aries are going to be feeling that kind of full moon energy really at the surface of the friendships and how they see themselves within those friendships or groups. Also with the Mercury retrograde as well, that is going to intensify because that's going backwards. So it might be friendships coming back in or rekindling old friendships from the past. If you're a Taurus, then the energy is very much going to be focused on the career aspect. Or if you're a Taurus rising, your career aspect. What do you actually want out of your career? You may be thinking a lot of at this time of what do you want to achieve into your career, or looking back at things that you've done in the past, particularly with this Mercury retrograde and this full moon. It's all in this 10th house, the solar 10th house, which is really about your career, what's your aspiration for the future. And again, it might be going back on things that you've wanted to do in the past, or projects that you want to do in the past and thinking about them again and how to implement them again. So that's really kind of important, really important for Taurians, this full moon and this Mercury retrograde. Okay, Gemini, interesting, because the Gemini energy is going to be focused on education a lot and travel, and obviously with the restrictions at the moment, that's a bit frustrating. So it's going to be a lot about planning what you want to do in terms of your education for the future, learning new aspects about yourself or self-development or some kind of philosophical leanings. But it might be a challenge within short distance travel, and how you communicate with those close to you, not necessarily family members, just those close to you, people in your neighborhood or around you, or indeed neighbors. You might find it that you need to communicate a lot more clearly to them at this time. Okay, Cancerians. Now, every full moon and new moon, the Cancerians get really, they can be affected a lot because they're ruled by the moon. And I would say this a lot, that the energy that's really working in the two houses that are really lit up by this are the 2nd and the 8th houses, and they are to do with finances and money. And the retrograde motion that's occurring is of Mercury is in your solar 8th house, and that is a lot to do with other people's money, how you look after yourself. Are you financially getting the money you need? How do you value yourself with your money, and other people's money, maybe your partner's money as well? That becomes a real kind of focus. In fact, that's going to be a focus for this year for you Cancerians. So it's really kind of looking at that energy. Okay, let's go on to Leos. Leos, it's all about the partnerships here. Other people making decisions for you. You might like it, you might not, but this full moon really accentuates that. Other people might be much more emotional. They might, you might feel that they are over dominant. Leos do not like that at all. So it's a real case of you being a little bit more not dominating yourself, but knowing your own boundaries here. People from the past might come in or suddenly reconnect with you, and you might want to connect with them or you might not. Okay, Virgos. Okay, so with the Virgo energy, a lot of the energy is going to be about work and where you're working, and also health as well. It's a good time to look at regimes, health regimes, or things that have come in from the past that you want to look at, like an old health regime, bringing it back in during this full moon and the Mercury retrograde. You might feel that you suddenly realize that your working environment might not suit you. You might be, as most people are, working from home and might be thinking, right, my office space doesn't suit me, I need to change it around. So there could be quite a domestic basis to this. It might be changing your living space, your living area as well. So that's the real where the focus is for Virgos. Librans. Well, I think with Librans, it's about individuality and creativity and enjoyment and pleasure. And these are all the things that Librans like. But especially for you, I think it's going to be a time when you're going to be looking at that kind of aspect during this full moon. It may be that you've put too much energy into other people, and therefore you need to draw that energy back into yourself so you can regroup and rejuvenate yourself and your energy levels. Okay, Scorpios. Yeah, a lot of energy going in for the Scorpios here to do with home, family, the roots, where you live, where you're located, decisions being lit up at that time or magnified, certainly, and within that, the aspects of career as well. And does the balance between career and your home life really work at the moment? Again, full moon magnifies, so it makes things seem bigger at the time. So it doesn't mean you have to make big decisions during this particular period. Okay, Sagittarius, this is all about how you communicate again. but it might be that you've communicated to people in a way that's not deep enough, that needs to have to get right deep into what's really going on with them, or with yourself. A bit of soul searching here, a bit of reflection needs to occur during this full moon and this Mercury retrograde. Okay, Capricorns. Yeah, okay, so the energy for Capricorns is going to be very much based on the finances, and they love to talk about finances, but the money that you're accumulating and how to do it. So this could be things coming to an end or conclusion in how you earn money, a new project's beginning, but it might stutter at first under that Mercury retrograde. So you just got to be kind of really kind of aware of that at this particular time. Okay, Pisces. Right. Okay. This is all you're like this, Pisces, all about self-discipline within the structures of your behavior, your conscious behavior and your unconscious behavior, dreams, spiritual development, meditation, but also needing time out for yourself to be able to write, to create. Very important, particularly with this Mercury retrograde. And you, again, it's putting that self-discipline to go, right, for example, I'm going to do meditation at this time and I'm going to stick with it. These are all the qualities that come out of full moon. And it's a very, very powerful full moon, quite tense. But with tenseness, actually, you get activity. You get things that actually happen. With some of the good sort of full moons that are not so tense, it just sort of passes you by. With this one, it's intense, but that can be really, really good. So well worth definitely getting involved. And I would say for all of us, what a powerful full moon and what a powerful Mercury retrograde. I'll see you soon.